This conversation will begin with two people, as you have seen in the welcoming slide. Kenneth Erikume is tax partner, tax reporting and strategy at PwC, joins us here in the studio. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
As well as Comrade Ambali Olatuji, who is National President, National Union of Local Government Employees, NOLGE. He joins us virtually from Delta State. Thank you for joining us this morning, Comrade.
My pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Well, let me begin with you, Mr. Erikume. So this has been on for a while. And of course, as you heard the president say, after so many decades, the federal government has decided to join forces with RMAFC to review the revenue sharing formula. First of all, do you see any value in it?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think clearly, for me, I think it's a quick win because to change things, you need to go to the root and change the structural setup of things. And that would take a lot of time. That would take constitutional reviews and would require a lot of effort before it begins to yield fruit. So I think the right thing to do would be to see where can we immediately get some quick wins. And I think that is what this is all about, where essentially with the call for more decentralization, you know, many stakeholders calling about fiscal decentralization. The government is now thinking, can we look at the revenue sharing formula to ensure that more is then given to the state and local government? One of the important outcomes from this process, which I consider to be very important, is the identification of the uncoupling or abrogation of the joint account between the states and the local councils. Because what that does is that, you know, with the clamor from the states always talk about decentralization, moving more of the resources from the center down to the states. But it's the same conversation at the local government level because, you know, for the funds to get down to the grassroots where the real value would be experienced, it therefore means there has to be additional allocation from the states to the local government.
Okay.
But when you have a situation where the accounts are controlled by the state government, it brings up a situation where the local councils sometimes are actually starved of funds to implement their projects.
Okay.
Just to give you some insights into, you know, why that's important.
Before we get that insight, I just wanted to ask a question around accountability. So there are those who are saying, okay, even the ones that the states have been getting, and which is part of which is supposed to go to the local governments, we haven't felt them. So there are questions around how that system ran and how this adjustment is going to make any significant difference. That's why I asked if there is any value in it. Because, so if on the one hand, the states at their level have not been as accountable as expected, going by a recent report, audit report, you know, of how the states have not used their audit systems to show proof of accountability, yeah. Then there arises questions that getting more might not even do us might not make much difference.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. But what I always say is the principle first, and then you deal with the other issues. So if the principle is not right in the first instance, you still need to address it, even if there are other surrounding issues that needs to be addressed as well. So in principle, you know, the central government, which is the federal government, has specific responsibilities and roles. So when we talk about fiscal federalism, you're looking at two important pillars. The first one is the instrument, which is the revenue generating mechanism. And then the second one is the functions. Now, when you look at how we have been structured as a country, a lot of power sits at the federal government, and a lot of the revenue generating mechanisms sit at the federal government. For example, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigerian Customs Service, and of course, all the myriad of oil and gas infrastructure that government can get revenue from. However, at the grassroots where, and the president spoke about the importance of the revision and how it would impact on primary education, on how it would impact on primary healthcare, and security. Okay. Even though those things, the federal government plays a role, for example, in security, the way to really have an impact is actually at the local level.
Which is why
you need to have the allocation more to the local government and the state government. However,
operationalizing that is what we'll want to begin with.
Absolutely.
Comrade Olatunji, so the news is out, and of course the president has said, well, he's okay with it, but he wants to wait for the constitutional review process. First of all, when this news broke to you, how did you receive it? This is something that's been working, work in progress for local government administrations. There are questions around how it is going to be operationalized, how it is going to be effected.
Thank you very much. Mr. President has stated the obvious. When you want to make an impact about governance, development, and all sorts, your concentration should be where people actually reside. And you know that by demographic survey, over 70% of Nigerians reside within the rural community setting. So if we are serious about giving dividends of democracy to the people, local governments must earn more. And in fact, our own proposal to that committee, we were proposing between 45% and 50% of the total revenue package of the country to local government. For example, if you look at the number of workers at the local government level, the number of roads available at local government level, the level of poverty at the local government level, infrastructural decay at local government level, threats to security at local government level. You will agree with me that even the proposed revenue sharing formula is not appropriate. Our belief is that direct effort should be made towards growing our local economy so that the local GDP will increase. And this will culminate into national GDP. So even the meager increment being proposed is not acceptable to us. And I also listened to my colleagues there talking about the principle. All of us know that the ongoing campaign towards local government autonomy, actualization of local government autonomy, has become a wildfire. It's so popular that everybody in Nigeria believes local government must be given financial autonomy and administrative autonomy. So in preparatory to that, we expect the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission to have recommended upward review to about 40% to local government. Because some of the ministries at the federal level, some of the ministries at the state level has no direct impact on the people. For example, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, they are doing little or nothing because the land belongs to local government. The rural farmers are in the local government. When you talk about primary health care, people really need that level of intervention and the local government level. So for us, what the revenue allocation proposed is not even acceptable to us. We know that the level of the amount of money available at the federal level and the state level is too much. And the impact is not felt by Nigerian people. That is why we still have abject poverty standing at people in the rural area in their faces. And when you look at the level of decay in our primary education, you wonder. Look at the hospitals at the rural area. And let me also be categorical in this. When you are proposing larger amount of revenue to state government and federal government, you look at how many hospitals do we have at the state level, at the secondary healthcare facility. Whereas in all the cronies of the country, in all the local government, we have health posts, we have maternity centers, we have primary healthcare centers. And every local government will have minimum of about 50 health institutions. Whereas at the state level, the maximum they can have is maybe one per local government. That is the maximum. So for us, we believe that if we are serious in addressing poverty and developmental issues and good governance, the revenue allocation must be proposed in favor of the local government. We expect them to propose 40% to local government, not less than 1%. You can see that the recommendation is unfavorable to local government. You will see that if we give local government 40% allocation, we give state 25%. They don't need more than 25% for God's sake. And the federal government, maximum we can give federal government 15% or 20% is okay for federal government. Let us have money in our consolidated revenue, and the derivative formula to be given to those that are the areas that are deprived. That is how to go. That is the best way to go. We have 774
as it stands
local
now,
government in Nigeria. We have 136 states in Nigeria. You are proposing humongous amount of money to 36 group of people. We have by 774 and lower than that. And we have only one federal government. So
I'm quite curious.
Pull down the number of issues at the federal level. Let them be at the local government level. For example, Minister of Women Affairs, what are they doing at the federal level?
Well, Comrade Olatunji,
what are they doing at the
I mean, you have made a case for why local governments should get more. In fact, when last this was tweaked, it was about, over 20 years ago, we had 500 and something local governments. Now we have 774, and it will look like what you're getting extra is just an extra 1% compared to, the other tiers of government. Not even up to 1%, exactly, if you do the math properly. But let's go back a little bit, because I know the RMAFC tried to do like consultation, went around the country, consulting as to, how to go ahead with this. I don't know how long this lasted for, but I know it was quite some time. And I imagine that you put forward this proposal. What feedback did you get? And how do you think the government arrived at this? We'll talk about what the Constitution says, but what kind of, presentation did you make? How did that whole, conversation go?
You see, the way they did this time, and we've been in local government service for a long time, the way they handled this time was an horrific thing. Enough consultation was not done. Because in the past, local government would have asked to submit their own proposal. The union there would have submitted their proposal. Even you, the media, would have been allowed to submit your proposal. All of us own Nigeria. But I bet you, even you are not given enough time to even contribute your own. Talkers of people like us. Though we moved from local government, we submitted our proposal. And you know the usual thing. By the time they will not call you to defend it properly. They will just talk to the papers and they will take their decision. That's not the best way to go. This issue of revenue is the live wire of this nation. And they should have allowed something like a referendum to be discussed about it, to be done throughout or before they come and they arrive at this decision. This decision is unfair to local government, it's unacceptable to local government, and it is anti-people. That's our belief.
Okay, so yes, we can always make a case for more and, of course, give reasons for that. But let's talk about what is it, 20 point, what do local governments get now? 20.6% that local governments get now. In what
and this
way?
21.4.
Yeah, I mean, that's a proposal, but the current percentage is 20.6%. So let's talk about that one.
20.6.
Yes, so let's talk about that one. Just how efficient have local governments been in spending and giving account of that one? Because for a lot of people, they don't even feel local government, and that's the government that is meant to be closest to people. So when you talk about road construction, when you talk about certain levels of maybe security, as it were, and all of that, a lot of people don't feel it. Infrastructure generally. So can you really account for even the 20% that local governments are receiving now?
You see, thank God that we don't just arrive here. In the 80s, in the 90s, you and I are in this country. When local government have direct access to their fund, when we don't have this set of state political actors that are all bent on destroying the local government system. I listened to the interview by the chairman of Governors Forum, who came on there and said there's no local government. And you can see that the way people are thinking is that local government, though some of them, though the feudal laws, few of them, are really out to destroy the system. What they did, the money you are asking us to account for, did the money really get to local government? This money has been siphoned using the instrumentality of law, using joint account allocation committee, which has become a conduit pipe. When local government is allocated 100 million, at times local government will not get up to 10 million in a month. This money are diverted at the state level through the joint account allocation committee. So you can't ask us to account for what does not even get to us. The federal government show good intention. They form the NFIU. The president issue order paper 10, which was supposed to have cushioned the effect of all this diversion of local government funds. What did the governors do? They went to court to pursue it so that it is ineffective. And again, now you can see the struggle between the labor, organized labor, and the forum of governments. You realize that all of us know where the problem lies. It is those people who sit on local government fund, who spend local government fund, who pay for local government fund, that has caused this infrastructural decay, lack of meaningful growth and development at the local government level. And that is why you see all of them that are facing prosecution, investigation by anti-corruption agency have their problem situated in diversion of local government funds.
Okay.
So
we'll talk more. We'll talk more on that, Comrade Olatunji. You listen to him, Mr. Irukeme, and are you concerned?
I mean, I think as Nigerians, we're all concerned, right? We're all concerned with the issue of how revenue that has been generated is actually applied to infrastructure, into services, into public goods. And this is not just a local government issue. I think from the federal to the state to the local government, there's that question of, our taxes, how far do they go? One of the things that, I think as a country we need to start looking at is more accountability on how funds are actually spent. And if I just pick the local government as an example, the comrade is right that, the allocation is actually small. But there is also IGR at the local government level. So the local governments have certain instruments or taxes and levies that they are able to collect, which is their own form of IGR. Many questions have been asked about how are those funds actually applied to Nigerian citizens and, the rural community and the local government.
Well, let's speak to some of those slides, and I know my colleague will do a little more on that one. But the sources of revenues for local governments, we have about 9, 9 subheads, and it's only one of them that is allocation. That's an external source of funding. We have development levy, tenement rate, penalties, ground rates, local license fees, and all of that. And those fines and the general licenses are for vehicle fees and all those things. And I have thoughts that, for instance, the vehicle fees, the motor park fees, right?
Oh, yeah. The Hackney permits, all of that.
I had thought that, all those funds that are collected at the parks, initially I thought they went straight to the local government, not knowing that some of them went to these unions and all of those things. Is there any way those could have been better managed?
Yes, so...
I'm talking about the collection now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there was a time I was working with a team and we looked at some of these taxes. One of the reasons why, they are not effective is that there's a lot of proliferation of these taxes, the many of them, and people cannot keep tabs on all of them. So one of the things that I think they need to do is to harmonize and bring all of them under, for example, at the state level, for example, we have the sanitation levies, we have the land use charge, which is a state tax, by the way, not a local government tax. We have other things around properties that the local governments collect. In other jurisdictions, you consolidate all of these things and you collect them maybe something like a council tax. And that will be effective because it's formal, everybody recognizes it, and it's collected at a central place.
By the state or the local government?
By the state or the local government, it depends. So some countries would use state government, some countries will use local government.
But in our case?
In our case, I would be comfortable with local government. But the problem is that the Constitution will not allow the local government to collect land use charge. So it therefore means that you can only consolidate what the local government can actually collect. The second thing is that you've got to remove the cash basis of collection, which is one of the ways that these things get out of the formal system into the informal system. Because a lot has been said about the informal sector and how is government able to mobilize revenue from this sector. A lot of these guys that play in the informal sector, they actually paying some form of taxes or levies of one form or the other. The problem is that many times it does not get into the government account. Like you mentioned, sometimes it's going to some association or some group, and therefore the local government does not see these funds.
Permit me to stay on that
Yes.
for a tiny bit of time.
Sure.
There is a report that was put out sometime in the middle of last year that in Lagos, the NURCW, for instance, in Lagos, generates something in the region of 123 billion naira annually. Now, they do not collect this at the state motor parks. They are at the various bus stops, in various local governments all over the place. So I'm wondering, is that something that could have been legislated against or legislated in such a way that it actually benefits the local governments directly?
Yeah, so I think Lagos State also tried to do something with that, actually. They tried to do something with the transport levy, where they levy an amount which will be collected as part of the dues. I think that's one of the innovations that the local governments need to look at. Unfortunately, because a lot of these motor parks are in different local governments, the infrastructure, the technology, and the mechanism to collect it becomes difficult for the local government. There's also the innovation. When I was in South Africa, for example, we had, similar to what we have in the local government in Nigeria, we have the TV license. It's a local government tax. But, I'm sure that, we have TVs in our house, but nobody comes to collect the taxes. In South Africa, before you purchase a television, you have to present the TV license. As long as you're buying it from a retail store or the mall or somewhere that is formal, you've got to present that, before you purchase. So you could actually have a system where the local government is cooperating with, maybe the state government and looking for better mechanisms for collection of these taxes in a way that it doesn't, get siphoned and moves out of the system.
Right. Okay. We're winding down now. And, with the level of mistrust, as it were, between states and local governments, I mean, you heard Comrade Olatsuji saying sometimes they get just 10% of the money they should get. Let me just wrap this up with Comrade. And we were looking earlier at sources of revenues for local governments, both internally and externally. Yes, we can talk about what's coming from the federation account, but internally, it will look like local governments have, the ability to collect so much from development levy, taxes on special services. They can collect rates as well, local license fees. I was looking at this academic work by Afe Babala University, where they chronicled all of these sources of revenue, earning from commercial undertakings, grants, donations, interest payment, dividend on investment, rent on local government property, and of course the external sources. So do we have an excuse for local governments to still be poor as it were, in Nigeria, when you have
Okay.
all of these avenues?
Thank you very much. That is an academic exercise. That is not the operational model in Nigeria. Let me tell you, the line use
allow for
charges
this.
is illegal. Are you hearing me?
Yes, please go ahead.
The line use charges is illegal. What the law recognizes is tenement rate charges on those properties. But because of the intention to prevent local government from earning their revenue, that is why the state, hiding under Section 7(2) of the Constitution, that says the House of Assembly shall legislate upon local government functions, creation, and administration. That is what they hide under. For example, some my colleagues there was talking about revenue collection at motor parks. Let me tell you, outlawing collection of revenue by union in the motor parks will be counterproductive. They are veritable tools, very good tools to collect the revenue for local government. The union revenue is different from local government. In the past, they collect both. The local government will call them, they sit down together, they agree. And on every ticket by local government that is sold and their own union, they will collect their own union fee. They also collect the union local government motor park fee, and they remit it judiciously.
Well, the question then, comrade, would be how this cooperation has worked so much in favor of the local governments, which is the question my colleague is asking. If they are getting so much, how come we're still talking about this? Okay, but you know,
the government started showing interest in the union, in the motor transport union,
we'll have to.
Them for political interest.
We'll have to.
Under Section 4.
We'll have to continue this conversation another time.
Yeah. They are not allowing local government to collect it.
Well, comrade, we have to continue this conversation.
From the state government that comes to local government to collect the revenue. And even the ones they are supposed to remit to local government, which is 10% IDR, they are not remitting it. So there's no revenue available at local government level. The state government adjust the allocation, also adjust the internal generated revenue of the local government. That is what they are doing. That's why the local government is so poor. We have told them if they need this revenue to be collected by local government without undue interference by the state government, local government will be buoyant. They will be able to be accountable for it. And we are not even leaving local government with that. We even propose that there must be anti-corruption agency in all the local government to monitor how this public fund are administered. That is the clamor by Nogi.
We're waiting for how that evolves over time. Comrade Ambali Olatunji is National President of National Union of Local Government Employees, NORGE, joined us virtually from Delta State. Thank you so much, Comrade, for being a part of this conversation, as well as Kenneth Erikume, who is a tax partner, tax reporting and strategy at PwC, joins us here in the studio. Thank you so much for being a part of our show this morning. Well, your own content on the program is next. I will begin with this one by Olagunju Oladele, who says the issue, talking about the first topic, is generally electrical generation and supply. We need to stop focusing on only centralization. It should be about splitting up the traditional system into many small sub-networks that could supply power when the connection to the generating plant fails.
Well, Chike IQ, as Dr. Chike Okogu says, on electricity as well, let's address the elephant in the room. Power business is dollar run, and our currency devaluation killed all profits for Gencos and Discos. Gas is now expensive. Our current tariff is far less than 11 cents per kilowatt hour. There lies our entire value chain problem, he says.
Dr. Ikpemosa says, inability to design an adaptive governance structure for the power sector is the problem. The ineffective allocation of cash flow and control rights is a major source of tension crippling the sector.
And finally, from First_Akin, that's Festus Akimboyewa, says, no doubt that our only grid is thoroughly overwhelmed in a country that's blessed with coal, gas, petroleum, solar, and hydro, all in abundance. Nigerians should have no business with darkness if government can properly identify the obstacles in electricity generation and supply. Well, we have generated the content for you this morning. We have supplied you with some of the solutions.
As demanded.
As demanded, and we hope it will be distributed appropriately. And that's how we anchor today on the program. I'd like to thank you so much for your time and your contributions. I'm Kayode Okikioludo. Have a beautiful day ahead.
We have just one nation. Make a contribution to make it better today. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.